We are the HPI Digital Blog, and today we are talking with Richard Perez. Richard Perez is the founding director of the Hasso Plattner School Afrika at the University of Cape Town. Mr. Perez, when and where was your first contact with design thinking?
It's a good question. So my background is engineering, and I was then very fortunate to do a master's in industrial design engineering at the Royal College of Art in London. And after that, I've spent almost 15 years in the design innovation industry. And nobody ever told me about this term called design thinking, although I practiced it for almost 20 years. And eventually went to business school to do an executive MBA because I was getting very frustrated with people's not really seeing the value of design. And so I thought, let me go to business school to understand the business way of thinking. And it was there that they introduced me to the term design thinking. And that really threw me because I felt, well, hang on, I've studied it at an art and design college. I've been practicing it for 20 years, and I had to come to a business school for them to tell me what it was that I was doing. So that was when I first learned. And then after that, I really spent most of my career on the other side of the fence, explaining to people what design thinking is.
In your opinion, what are the advantages of design thinking over other innovation methods?
So I frame design thinking not necessarily as a method or a process. I see it as a mindset, a way of being. In other words, it's the way you show up at a team event or at work. And so I think the important thing is that when you start to adopt these mindsets, it just becomes the way you think, the way you do. And process is part of it, but you build your own process depending on the nature of the problem you have or the challenge that you're dealing with. But for me, it really is, it takes time to get to that stage, but it really is just an attitude. It's a way of being.
We heard that the Hasso Plattner School Afrika has a unique new building, which is located at UCT's Middle Campus and will celebrate its official opening during the Decon Festival this October. What makes this building so special?
Well, this is the first D school in Africa, first physical building that's been built. I think if you look at the previous two D schools that have been funded by the Hasso Plattner Foundation, it's Stanford University in Palo Alto and the one here in Germany in Potsdam. The one in Cape Town is the first time it's moving out of really the global north into a global south region. And so the real opportunity is to see what can a D school, what impact can it have in a context, emerging market context, the diversity, the complexity that we have in Africa. And although we're based in Cape Town, our focus very much is to move into sub-Saharan Africa and start to build relationships across the continent and really start to build a community of practice of design thinking, but in the context of Africa, as opposed to in the context of Europe or North America.
The Global Design Thinking Challenge is currently taking place. The D-School Africa is joining the 12 Global Design Thinking Alliance members. What is the Global Design Thinking Challenge about in general, and what is the challenge this year?
So the challenge focuses on education in schools, and specifically how we can bring design thinking into schools. And I think as a D school, we spend our time teaching students at university. That's our main focus, undergraduate and postgraduate. But really, we actually need to get them earlier. We shouldn't have to exist at a university because this should actually be taught at a foundational level at schools. So this Global Design Thinking Challenge really is about looking at how can we bring design thinking in at school level, so students can learn this at a very young age. But as you can imagine, one context is different to the other. So the beauty about this global challenge is to start to see these 12 different student teams, what ideas they come up based on their context, and then start to see, are there perhaps some commonalities we can look at? Because I think each one will have its own context and its own challenge around bringing the design thinking into schools. And it'll be very interesting to see in 2 weeks' time in October at the Decon Festival, the ideas that the students have come up with.
So thank you for the interview with the HPI Digital Blog.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.